Good morning. It is a beautiful morning, about an hour and a half out of the city, and we are just about to arrive at the new farm of Jon and Jess. If you haven't been following their story, Jon and Jess are a case study that I'm working on to show you practical applications of the Bankable Farm Dossier course and the community, etc. This farm was really a vision almost incarnate of what Jess described when we were doing the initial assessment, the Tier 1 course, which is all about what you want out of this, what type of farming, how you envision your life and how it's working. And it gets everybody aligned, it gets the family aligned, anybody who is a potential investor or family members that are going to help out or professional investors. It's a process, a very important process to go through to get people aligned, and even people like Jon and Jess have been planning this for a long time, found a lot of areas where they didn't realize they weren't aligned. But in that process, Jess described her ideal property. She said it's a little bit back off the road, maybe a kilometre or so. It's not flat. She had a vision of it being undulating and an interesting property, some forested areas, all the things that she described. This property ticks those boxes. And I think part of the reason that they were able to find this property is because they had described that, defined it. Not, oh, I want a pretty farm, but they really thought through the process. And they found this property, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And there's a whole backstory behind how they got the property and what appeared to be somebody was trying to hinder their acquisition of the property. But the good news is they did get this fantastic property. It needs, some tender loving care. It hasn't been worked for a few years. There's all new fencing needs to go in. So today, the main thing that we're looking at is water. You can't do anything without water. So we are assessing the well that's on the property. There is a pump house next to it, but the well, it's not like a deep overflowing well, it's quite overgrown. We need to attach a pump to it and see if there is enough water to run the whole property. Now, you're still going to want resilience anyway. You're going to want at least a second source of water, so they will put in a bore at some point. This property has a creek running through the middle of it, but it's seasonal. But even though it's a seasonal creek, it's not always wet on the surface. Underneath, there's likely to be almost always water. We know from looking at aerial photos that the properties around it have dams, and that water flows down through this property from one of the sides into the creek. So there's many, many different ways to capture water on this property. But the first thing is to see, can that well be made active straight away? Because if there's enough water in there to pump out, it's a relatively simple job to move the water, pump the water up to the high areas, store it there, and then let it run down using just natural water pressure. We'll be looking at that today, and also just double checking fence lines. There's a lot of silvopasture, lightly forested, medium forested areas on the property that we intend to fence off and put pigs into. There's a lot to be done here, but they have the means, they've got the plan. We're currently building out their farm plan, their business plan for this specific farm. They've really thought this through well, and together I think we're going to make them very, very successful. So what the program gave you that sort of was outside your scope of knowledge, right? Because you've already got experience as a farmer. Yeah. So my question to you is, what the Cultured Estates program has given you that you didn't already have, that you felt was of value to you, even though you're an experienced farmer?
I know how to produce animals. I'm pretty confident in doing that type of stuff, fixing fences. Really where my gaps are, I guess trying to direct sell, that's a new thing for me, instead of selling at the Saleyards. And all the things associated with that, what abattoirs and I guess what things to think of, or making a business plan for that is stuff that I'm getting to know of now and working through with the program has been very helpful for me, yeah.
Jess, what about you? What was it about the program that where it adds value, that gaps in knowledge or things you hadn't thought of?
Yeah, so I think it's also some of that talking to each other and putting the plan together. I think Jon, as we mentioned, is very good at knowing how to grow an animal and what that needs, but to get that out of his head onto a piece of paper and put a dollar sign next to it, I think it's been valuable for us to actually sit down and collaborate together. We both know that we want our kids involved, but what that looks like for both of us is a little bit different. Those little things that can sometimes trip you over, that's what this program has given us, I think, is the strength to start in a really solid place rather than fall down at the first little hurdle that we can't see through.
And so now you're doing the tier 2, which is the Bankable Farm Dossier. So we're building out your farm plan, your business plan on this property. So for this property, it's not theory anymore, and that involves making decisions about what you're going to farm, when you're going to farm it, how you're going to go to market, your brand and everything. What parts of that do you feel have been a revelation or something you hadn't thought of or valuable?
I think it's just the going through it step by step. So, you know, we want to have pigs. What are all of the possible things that we might need with pigs? Oh, you know, hadn't thought about silos. Where are we going to source them from? Gosh, they're more expensive than we thought. Where are they actually going to fit into the timeline? Obviously, we're familiar with cattle, but also, like, you know, pigs. How many pigs can you have in a certain amount of space? You know, like, so some of these sort of questions, that process of tier 2 has really helped to clarify some of those things for us, yeah.
What do you think you would have done differently if this program didn't exist?
I think I would have been playing catch up to Jon's plan. I think that Jon's plan is very firm in his mind. He spends a lot of time thinking things through and working through problems in his own way. And so I think I would have then been playing catch up in terms of the finances and, oh wow, they're all ready to go right now. Where am I gonna, like, how are we gonna get rid of them? Because I didn't realize they were gonna be ready now. So I think that's what this has given to me, I think.
What about you, Jon?
As Jess said, we haven't, I guess, bred pigs before or other animals. I know a lot about cows. And thinking through things like not selling animals at the Saleyards, there's a lot of, obviously, pitfalls that you can go down that you might get stuck in. And it's good to, yeah, talk them over, get a real clear idea in your mind where you want to go through. I know it's a plan at the start, but and it might fall down here and there, but you got a better base about things. Look, I'd feel much better breeding pigs now, or not breeding, but having a go now with pigs, chickens, than I would have done before, because it would have been
wow, there's chickens now.
Wading in, you know, wading in sort of blindfolded and seeing how I go, really. But I got a bit more of a base now that I'm confident to start. Let's put it that way, yeah.
So that's maybe more than 10,000 litres of water coming off the roof up here, running down that pipe, and then going in here, and I think your water problem might actually be pretty much solved. That's more than enough water for 50 cows. Get you going.
Well, steers.
But yeah. Cattle.
Yeah, to get us going. You just need something to fill it each time.
Yeah, because it's full because it hasn't been used at all.
Yeah.
So you're thinking the pump down there maybe pumps it up to here? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, no.
Unless that's pumping up to that high point up there. Or one of the high points up there. But why bury it underneath?
Jon just said it's dry at the top, like the spout.
There's no water coming in from the spouts.
And the context is that there's no information on this farm, right? Nobody, whoever owned it previously has passed away, hasn't passed on any information, so there's a bit of guessing going on. Interesting idea too, to use those clay pipes and fill them with cement and use them as stumps.
Yeah, used to build their sheds on it because mice couldn't crawl up it.
What couldn't crawl up it?
Mice.
Ah!
Yeah.
That's the problem with monocropping, isn't it? You end up with a whole bunch of stuff that a certain type of animal wants to eat.
Yeah.
If you're growing all grain, then you're going to end up with basically silos full of what mice and rats consider feed.
I feel like there's water in here.
That is a decent amount of water, but that was dirty at first, so I don't think it was flowing. So there's definitely water.
I saw no pipe from that tank coming to here.
Oh, I see what you mean. You mean up here. So it's running under the ground here.
Yep.
But up here we can't see. Well, I did see that the grass had grown over. Yeah, you're right. I can't see any. Well, it must be that.
Might be the overflow.
Yeah. Is that a dead water tank?
Yeah.
So that's the overflow. So we know that there's an overflow from there to there.
Oh, you can track it along it.
Yep. I think this was a vegetable garden.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Maybe even that just goes straight into the ground and it just
zigzags.
Yep, runs underground and just gives him really good. He's been pretty clever about some of the things that he's done. I personally think that that might be buried pipes because these are leveled, but these bits are different. So that's leveled.
Yep.
And that's different. And I'm thinking that that pipe might literally run down and then feed either zigzag or just feed off. And each one, this has got gravel. We could dig one out one day.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like a ready to go market garden. And you don't have to grow anything fancy. You can just start with some pumpkins and squashes and things, you know, that are just like zero maintenance.
Probably
Get a crop.
2 beds wide, isn't it?
It is wide.
Yeah, so like if you got a bed each side.
2, 3, 4. Wow, this property is just like, the price was a gift. The water is not as bad as we thought it was.
I still don't know where that pipe goes, though.
No, I think that's going to be a job for you to do some hunting. I think you're going to have to do some digging and hunting. You might have to literally just dig back that pipe. We could do that now if you want to. Do you want to do that? Just dig back that pipe. I was literally, look over here. I was actually literally going to ask you before whether you were thinking of maybe, I was wondering whether you were going to do like, considering doing one big pass and levelling it a bit when you do the swales and keyline stuff, or are you just going to...
Yeah, just do swales.
Yeah, you're going to fill in holes or...
No.
Nope. Another one there.
Yeah, so there's a slide yesterday.
Ah. Oh, that is... more water than was here last time. That's more water than I remember though. I won't put pictures of the kids up on the thing actually. I'm just thinking that because you guys have decided not to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have been a decent pipe.
So there's the pipe.
Yeah.
And it's just connected to there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is there any way that we can get some water down there from that other pipe to see if this is where it comes out? But that would be, if you could do that, then you'd know for sure that that's what it's connected to.
You're right. There's always been this puddle here.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a bit more sort of up here.
Yeah.
It's still not like a running creek.
No, but...
It's probably longer now, isn't it? It's not that deep.
And there's stuff in here because you can hear it moving about.
Yeah, if down
There's
here,
stuff in the bushes. So.
you can hear there's a trickle.
You can hear a trickle where?
So just down around the bend there's another pond.
Yeah.
And you can really, you can hear that it's trickling slowly down.
So there is water coming steadily. Well, I think all he's doing is pumping, like you said, I think this is pretty steady. It's the low point on the farm, and I suspect all through summer you've got water here. There's people coming through here too though. Have you guys been through here? Somebody has recently. What a great place, mate. How much fun are you going to have cleaning this up?
This is a great place.
Oh, it's a great place. You've scored. All right, so that was a big day's filming, and what an incredible property they've bought. It's really interesting. you need to see a property several times to appreciate it, especially when you're talking 200 acres. It's quite open land, but you just don't pick up all the subtleties and the nuance the first or second time and all its potential. So I guess the big takeaway that I would share from today is go and look at properties multiple times, especially before you buy them. Jon knows this area, they don't live far away. He came down and looked at it quite a few times. He's an experienced farmer, he already had an idea of what he wanted. Jess loved it. But from a farm perspective, and especially if you don't know the property, I would say that any less than 3 visits of 2 hours, you don't know that property. Unless it's just a flat piece of land. It's, you know, if it's just 200 acres of flat land with a dam or something, that's simple. But if it's a property that has tree lines, forested areas, silvopasture, creeks, you need to go and spend time there, and you need to go and spend time there at different times of the day so that you can see what it's like in the morning, see what it's like at sunset. That's another takeaway from today was I didn't realize that this property gets to 0 degrees overnight, even though it's only early autumn. And in fact, it snows here sometimes. I didn't know that. So that might be something that you just don't expect. I didn't expect it for this property where it's situated, and yet there you go. You live and you learn. So if you'll excuse me, we're all going to the pub to have a nice meal together.